Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 23rd of August. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a bleary-eyed Euan Robertson after a big shift last night. Euan, you get about half an hour's sleep.
Yeah, I think it was two in the morning. I put the laptop down last night. It was a late one at Ibrox. I think me and Joshua got a taxi home. It was the back end of 12, and there's some more work to do. But we have to shout out the taxi driver last night. Was called Frank. He was a big Rangers fan. He says he listens every morning. Me and Josh didn't get a word in the way home, and he was giving us his analysis. It was great to hear that, isn't it? I love those sort of conversations. In a taxi, I'm one of those people that talks to the taxi drivers the whole way. He says he sat in the Copeland Road. He sat in the Copeland Road for 50 years. He said so.
Wow.
He had lots of analysis as well, so it was great to hear from him. So give him a wee shout out.
Yeah, superb stuff. Great to have you on board, Frank. So that is absolutely magic. Right, let's talk Rangers, guys. So much to talk about after last night's 2-2 draw with PSV at Ibrox. Myself and Joshua recorded a video almost close to midnight last night to give our instant reaction to the match. Of course, Abdallah Sima, after a tad indifferent first half, it's fair to say, unleashing an absolute worldie into the top corner. Rangers went in 1-0 at half-time, and Gary equalised. A good finish, it's got to say. They've got to say it from PSV to make it one apiece. Before the goal of the night for me, Rabbi Matondo, who looks a player reborn. A fantastic move, wonderful assist from Cyril Dessers. And Matondo just slipped the ball past the goalkeeper before PSV scored the second goal of theirs of the night. Luke de Jong just almost hit the back of his head from a set piece. Poor goal as far as Rangers are concerned to lose. They did have other chances after that. Matondo with an absolute beauty of a volley from the edge of the area. And Danilo probably should have done better with a chance from close range late on. Euan, you were at the game last night. What was it like?
The atmosphere was really good. First and foremost, it was a fantastic atmosphere. Felt like a big European game last night, and I think the game generally was quite nervy. I think they're a really good side. There's no point kind of getting over that. They look like a quality team, and I think the Rangers done well to keep some of their main threats quiet. Bakayoko and Noah Lang, I think, are top players. And Rangers done well. I think they carried a threat. I think Michael Beale would want Rangers to have more possession in the game. I think it's going to be a kind of similar game over there where PSV will dominate possession and Rangers will look to kind of exploit on the counter-attack. I think with Peter Bosch's sides, they do play a really attractive style of football. I really like him as a coach. They play really kind of modern, possession-based attacking football, but they do leave spaces at the back. I think Rangers exploited that perfectly with Matondo's goal, which was, as you said, Derek, like a fantastic move. Those are the kind of the goals I love to see, kind of team moves, one-touch football, and I think you're right again to highlight Cyril Dessers' his pass, because that was a world-class pass. The weight of the ball, everything about it was top class from Dessers. And then Matondo, I mean, these last three appearances, he's looked like a completely different player, hasn't he? And me and Josh were saying to each other actually before he came on that, based on recent performances, you'd say that he deserves to start over Abdallah Sima.
He's done himself no harm whatsoever last night with his performance. A big good morning from we've got a chap here watching all the way from Brazil. So thank you very much for tuning in, buddy. It's great to have your company on this Wednesday morning. Matondo was absolutely fantastic when he came on. He looks revitalised. I just wish he scored that volley. That would have been an absolutely beautiful goal, it's fair to say. But lots of positives to take from last night. Rangers were up against a very good outfit, a team that won 5 from 5 at the start of the season. They defeated Sturm Graz with ease as well. They spent a lot of money this season redeveloping the squad. So next week, I can imagine it'll be very much the same, Euan, because like you say, Peter Bosch's side do like to play that attacking brand of football. They do leave spaces in behind. So I expect it to be very much similar to what we witnessed at Ibrox last night.
Yeah, I think it will be that case. And it's also interesting, I think, people will probably say that, PSV have a slight advantage, obviously with the draw at the home and playing at the home game. But, you see what happened last year over there when, Cholak and Malik Tillman, combined to put Rangers in the Champions League. And Rangers have a good record against PSV, so just generally, you wonder if that'll be a factor. It'll kind of play on, maybe the supporters more than playing the players, because most of the players haven't played the game historically, but some of them did play last season. You wonder if that will play on their minds a little bit. But again, Peter Bosz, I think I like him as a manager. I like him as I think he's very honest. And he said that if PSV don't play better next week, then they won't go through. So, the Dutch are often accused a little bit of arrogance, aren't they? I don't think that's the case. I don't think they'll be taking Rangers lightly at all. And Michael Beale said a couple of times in his post-match press conference that the Rangers can hurt this PSV side.
Yeah. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Loads of them. This good one from Jim, friend of the show. He says, "I know I'm old school, but why do we never put anyone on the post when defending corners? Just Luke de Jong's header, of course. If Stephen Davis was there, Euan, I think we're looking at a victory from Ibrox. Are you a man on the post, man?"
Yeah, sometimes I am, and then I suppose the other way you look at it, if you do that, sometimes you don't need a man up the pitch, and that's something else that can really annoy some people, isn't it? When you get everyone back for a corner and you don't leave anyone up. It was a really, really bad goal to lose from a set piece. I think John Stewart gets caught under the ball, doesn't he? And de Jong gets a march on him. And we were talking about this last night about John Stewart generally. I think he's played really, really well this season, John Stewart.
Yeah.
But one concern I do have in his game, and it's not something that's just sparked from last night, is that sometimes he does misjudge aerial duels. When the ball's in the air, he can sometimes misjudge them, and it's becoming a bit of a worrying pattern, I think, for me personally. I think he's been really, really good this season, and I'm a huge fan of John Stewart. But if you look at the goal against Kilmarnock, the goal against Servette last week, both of them are John Stewart fault. So I think it's something he's got to improve on. And if you look at both all the goals that you can say that he's culpable to for a certain extent, it is getting caught under balls in the air. The Kilmarnock one was a throw-in, wasn't it? The Servette last week was just a long ball, and he completely misjudged it. And then again, it's a set piece, and I think he gets caught under the ball again. So it's an area of his game that I think he definitely has to improve, because I think in all other attributes in his game, he's been really good this season. He's been commanding. I think even last night there was a couple of really good tackles, and he was good. But it's just these moments of getting misjudging aerial balls. I think it's really costly, isn't it? You can defend well for 89, 90 minutes, but if you make one error, then it's ultimately going to cost the team.
Yeah, incidentally, the yellow card he received for the challenge when he went up for a header with Luke de Jong was a joke. Really don't get that at all, and I really hope Rangers are sending a bill to Luke de Jong for booting a door off its hinges at half-time. We can't be having that at Ibrox, that's for sure. There's
Where did that stem from? Because you see on Twitter and Luke de Jong done that, but obviously when you're at the game, you're not kind of watching on TV. I mean, did someone just tweet it, or was it?
Yeah, Emma Dodds mentioned at halftime during the break as the teams re-entered the field that he was a tad angry and booted a door off its hinges. So there you go. He wasn't best pleased after they went in 1-0 down at half-time. Right, let's get to a few of the comments. So many good ones coming in. James Skeen, just on that second leg. Fact, been a few years since PSV have qualified. They'll feel pressure in front of their own fans. Hopefully work in our favour. Yeah, they will be under immense pressure next week. Again, they'll be expectant. They'll be the favourites, quite rightly so, but that may just suit Rangers. Chris says, if we're being honest, we're all expecting a thumping off this team. Came away with hope. That's absolutely right, Euan, because I think last night really gave a lot of encouragement and optimism that this team is starting to gel, is starting to understand each other, and it certainly bodes well for future games, not only just for next week, but the games ahead after that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of optimism after the performance, and there's been so much talk about this summer about the amount of players who came in the rebuild, and it will take time for players to gel. I think that's true. I'm not sure if it was too much the case last night. I just think the commitment and the kind of passion and the energy from the Rangers team to go and compete against a very good side was really pleasing. I think they gave everything last night to get that result, and if it wasn't for a set piece goal, I think we'd have got it. And there was a chance at the end from Danilo as well, where I think the reaction to going behind was really good. Rangers were really putting the pressure on in the closing stages, and I think it'll give lots of supporters hope and maybe a bit of an idea of what Michael Beale wants to do. It was a completely different game for Rangers than what they usually face, because domestically they dominate possession for all the time, and it's about breaking down a low block, and that can be quite frustrating at times when Rangers can't navigate past these teams. But yesterday, PSV had more of the ball and Rangers had to play in the counter a little bit more, and I think at times they looked really, really good. I think they could be better in that next week, actually, to be honest. I think there's a couple of chances where you've seen it when Rangers turned over the ball and there was a bit of a lack of support to players. I remember one where Nico Raskin kind of had the ball and there was no option for him on it, and the crowd get quite restless. I think Sima passed him a couple of opportunities in the break in the first half, just poor touches. Obviously, his pace is a weapon, but his end product can be frustrating at times. So I think that's something that Rangers will have to capitalise on over there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was of the opinion before Sima scored that beauty, it was maybe time to make a change at half time. He was just very careless in possession, and I wouldn't have minded Ravi Matondo coming on at the break, but obviously the goal helped him massively. A few comments come in. Firstly, Hugster says, "Good morning, guys, from the jungles of Peru. Beat that one." Well, that is very exotic indeed. So thank you very much for tuning in on this Wednesday. Angry Pigeon, nice kind words, buddy. Good morning, lads. I'm becoming addicted to this channel. Keep up the good work, guys. That's very kind of you to say so. Just on Matondo, lots of comments coming in with regards to next week. There's a point here. Does he start next week, Euan? Over on that left, Scott Walker enjoying the Matondo rebirth. Would you start him next week? Though not sure he has the physicality, maybe better as an impact sub. What's your feeling on that one?
I think Scott makes a good point. I really like him as an impact sub. I think when he comes on, he's so quick. He provides that injection of energy and kind of dynamism. But I'd be tempted to start him. I really would. Do I think Michael Beale? I think Sima might play again next week. I just think that using Matondo off the bench could be a really, really good weapon when the game stretches up. But PSV I imagine PSV are going to come out the traps flying and really go for Rangers in the early stages. So if they do leave that space, Matondo's pace is electric. He's so quick. I think there's a moment just after he came on as well where he kind of jinked past two players in the box and got a shot away that was kind of deflected. He's got good feet. He's got very good feet as well. It's just brilliant to see him kind of turn his career around, doesn't it, with his performances. I thought he was excellent off the bench against Livingston. I thought he showed real promise, especially in the first half against Morton at the weekend, and then making that impact last night. And it's quite a fascinating subplot, isn't it? There was a lot of fans, I think, wanted Yanis Hadji to play against PSV based off his Morton cameo. I certainly wasn't in that camp. Ultimately, Matondo's came in and took his place in the European squad, and Michael Beale's decision was ultimately proved right. So you have to give the manager credit for that.
Yeah, and I like this. Football's all about opinions, and people's opinions can change dramatically. The interesting point here, I've been roasting Matondo recently. I clearly know nothing about football. So, yeah, listen, I think you're not the only one that's been roasting Matondo in his time at Ibrox, but certainly it looks a player that looks a lot better. I know Michael Beale did touch on it afterwards when he's speaking after the game, saying that when he came in, he was struggling with a knee injury, but he's had a full pre-season now and he's looking sharp, and he certainly made an impact last night, that's for sure. Other point I wanted to raise as well, I think Connor Goldson deserves a bit of praise. Jack Singh with an interesting point. Goldson needs his praise. Man of the match, he said in the Blue Baron. I don't want to hear any more slagging Goldson off again. Absolutely brilliant. Thought he was terrific, Euan. That was the Connor Goldson that we all know he can be. I thought he covered well at times. There was certainly points in that first half where his positioning was excellent. And I think that partnership between him and John Souttar, we know we discussed Souttar there, and sometimes losing out on the jump, a la the Luc de Jong goal. But I think that partnership is the one going forward, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And echo what everyone's saying there. I mean, I thought Connor Goldson was comfortably the best player in blue last night. I thought he was excellent. He was almost a colossus at the back, wasn't he? His positioning was good. There was a couple of really good tackles. I remember one in the first half where he just gets the ball. I think it might be against Noah Lang when he's about to break through and he gets that sliding tackle. I don't get the Connor Goldson criticism at all. I think he's had a little bit of it this season, Derek. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? And to me, I still think he's arguably one of Rangers, if not their most important player. When he comes out the side, I think you see a massive drop off. I think another thing that you've got to remember as well, he's not had any pre-season. If you look at football clubs up and down the country, so many players who miss pre-season talk about how important it is to get up to pace and get up to fitness. Connor Goldson barely trained, and he went straight into the Kilmarnock game, and he's played pretty much every game since then. Obviously didn't play against Livingston, didn't play against Morton, but I think Connor Goldson's someone as well, even if he's 80% fit, he'll put his body on the line and play. I think that's happened throughout the years, and to me, he's easily still Rangers' best centre half.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought it was really good last night. Cyril Dessers is another one, Euan, I'm interested to get your point on. We all know that, as I mentioned earlier on, fantastic assist for Rabbi Matondo for that second goal. He was a lot better last night. I think he's come in for a bit of criticism. I think it's been fair, some of it, but of course, caveat with that is he hasn't been 100% match fit, but he certainly looked good last night, and Rangers will need that again next week in Eindhoven.
Yeah, I mean, 2 assists. I think that's 4 assists he's got now for Rangers, isn't it? And you didn't maybe... We're kind of analysing when we came in, you maybe didn't expect him to have that kind of element to his game. I think the reason he started over Danilo last night was due to his physicality. They're 2 centre-halves, so, they're not probably their first choice centre-backs, and they're not the most physical of players. And I did think that Dessers kind of bullied him a couple of times physically, and like you mentioned, Derek, he's not still at full fitness. I think he also had a bit of a disrupted pre-season, and I think when players, he done the press conference on Monday, and he spoke really well about having to kind of adapt to Glasgow and moving his family over and getting settled into a new place to live. And he very much wants to be at Rangers long term, and I think you're seeing improvements in his performances. Like we said earlier, the pass for Matondo's goal was outstanding, and his pressing to, the first goal to kind of play his part in winning the ball back was very, very good too. And he cut the ball back, and it was an unbelievable finish from Abdullah. We were sitting right behind it, and firstly, I didn't think he was going to be capable of pulling that off at that point, but as soon as the ball left his foot, you knew exactly where it was going. And Ibrox absolutely erupted, and looked De Jong went mental as well, but for different reasons. But yeah, I think you're starting to see a little bit more improvement from Dessers. I don't think he was perfect last night by any means. I thought there was still a couple of moments he wasn't quite there. He looked a little bit sloppy and off the pace, but it's quite interesting as well. It's another sub point is a lot of talks about building relationships in the forward areas, and I think many people thought that Sam Lammers, Danilo and Dessers would be the preferred front three, but they're not actually playing that many minutes recently on the pitch together. So I don't know at Ross County what you do at the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen all 3 of them start.
It's an interesting one. And again, when Rangers signed the 3 of them, we spoke to a number of Dutch journalists and what have you, and they all said they were surprised that Rangers have bought all 3, and they were intrigued to see if they could all work together. I have my doubts that all 3 can play in the same team, but yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens at Ross County on Saturday. I think there will be one eye, of course, on the Wednesday night. But yeah, Rangers have got plenty of options at this moment in time. Just on Danilo, a few points coming in with regards to him. Chris says, Danilo should have burst the top of the net last night. 2 sitters he's just missed now, £6 million. Are you concerned about Danilo, Euan? I mean, that is too... the one in Servette, of course, was a glaring miss as well. Is there slight concerns about him from you?
When the team sheet came out, that was the biggest surprise that Danilo didn't play, given how much the Rangers had spent on him in the summer. I understand why he went with Dessers. I talked about it there with the physicality, and I don't think Danilo's suited to playing out wide. So, am I concerned? Not overly. I think Danilo showed it in moments, what he can do. I thought his goal at the weekend was really good, and I don't think his performance levels have been that high, to be honest. I've been a little bit not worried about his performances, but I'm yet to see him at full speed. I think it'll take a while to get up to speed, and I expect him to start at the weekend. But I don't think his chance last night was as bad as his miss over in Switzerland.
No.
But it's an interesting one. I can understand why some people are concerned by his performances and his omission last night. You spend £6 million on a player, you'd expect him to get in the sides, and yet, like Donald says, I don't think it was a bad miss last night by any means. But I think it's a case of just I'll let him get up to speed, and I think he'll start at the weekend. And it's all about hitting the back of the net. But it's an interesting point as well that if you look at Rangers as attacking players this season, they've all got on the score sheet, haven't they? Matondo, Sima, Danilo, Dessers, Lammers, they've all kind of got on the mark already. So I think that's a promising sign.
Yeah. I'm on for giving him time. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start on Saturday. Let's get to a few of the comments. First of all, some nice words here from Dundee Taylor. If anyone hasn't joined the podcast, then you should. $2.99 a month for great insight on all things tactical bargain. Thank you very much for saying so, buddy. And John McCann says, come on, Bears, over 700 watching and only 58 likes. Bash that like button. You said it, buddy. That helped the channel massively. You were at the press conference last night with Michael Beale, Euan. He was quite late out with regards to the press conference. Anything interesting that he said? I'm going to touch on Glenn Kamara shortly, but was anything in terms of the game that sort of pricked your ears up a little bit?
I like the fact that he came out and said, don't underestimate us. That's what he said. And he went, this club is capable of pulling these results off in Europe. And I think that's what every fan wants to hear, is that optimism from the manager. And he said that the Rangers can hurt PSV over there. That there's no getting away from it. It's going to be an incredibly difficult tie, isn't it? But I think Rangers will go there and maybe think they can hurt PSV on the counter attack, and they'll have confidence. I think last year's result over there will give Rangers confidence as well. I know a lot of the players have changed. It was interesting that only 3 of the starters last night started the game at Ibrox last season. That was kind of Barisic, Tav and Goldson. So I think Michael Beale spoke well. Obviously touched on Glenn Kamara. He plays Rabbi Matondo. He highlighted Cyril Dessers as well. He talked about how disappointing it was to lose that set piece goal. I think that was a frustration last night, wasn't it? That it was a frustration. Sorry, it was the fact they lost that goal from a set piece. It was a brilliant bit of play, and I thought the dummy for Sangari's goal was really clever, wasn't it? It completely took out 2 defenders, and it was a pretty straightforward finish. But James mentioned it there. Beale was definitely fired up last night. Where Josh and I were sitting in the gantry, we're quite close to the dugout, and at half time he was giving it that. He was trying to get the fans right up for it, and I think that's what fans want to see, isn't it? I think Michael Beale's got a strong affection for the club from his previous spell, and he came back to the club. He could have went to the English Premier League, but he wanted to come back to Rangers, and I think his passion for the club's undeniable. So it's good to see that from managers, isn't it? I'm not a fan of the sort of the managers on the touchline, giving it to the ref for 90 minutes and waving their arms and shouting. But I think when the managers show a bit of passion towards the crowd, I'm all for that.
Yeah, totally agree. And another player that was G'ing up the crowd last night was Todd Cantwell. Chris raises a point here. Now how have we not spoke about the man Cantwell yet? Boy, he ran his socks off last night. What a diamond. I thought he was good last night. Euan, he was brilliant. And if you haven't seen his post-match interview, folks, do check it out on our YouTube channel. It's on there. He speaks very well, Todd Cantwell. Perhaps I had my heart in my mouth when he went sliding in that second half and he was already on a booking. I think he has to wrap that pronto. He got a word from the referee, of course, Euan, but in the main, he set up, I think, a bit of control to play the ball into Dessers as well for Matondo's goal. I thought was excellent. It's a sort of occasion why he came to Rangers, of course. I thought he revelled last night in it.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent too. I think behind Goldson, he was the best player for Rangers, and me and Josh were saying last night at the game, no disrespect to Norwich, so it is probably a little bit of disrespect to Norwich, but he's playing his career down there, and he's coming to Ibrox, and he's playing in these sort of games, and he must just be like, wow, this is night and day to what I'm used to at Carroll Road, and the atmosphere, and the energy and the passion and the stage. And he kind of said that last night. In his post-match interview I watched on YouTube last night when I got home, and said it's an absolute privilege to play for Rangers, and you can see how much he actually meant it. And I think as well, he's quite an articulate guy. He's very articulate. He's quite softly spoken. Really impressive. I thought his comments about like social media and how negative that can be at times as well was really good. Kind of in light of his Instagram activity over the weekend and the backlash to that, but it's the passion he plays with, it's the energy he plays with. Pressing wise, he's like Chris says, he runs his socks off. He's so good at pressing and pressurising other players. And there's a couple of moments in the first half where I thought technically he just looked outstanding. You had like 2 or 3 players around him. I think at one point he won a free kick. He had 3 guys on him, wins a free kick. Another point he had about 3 guys on him as well, and he kind of played the pass through to Jorge Cifuentes. And I mean, just going back to Michael Beale's press conference on Monday, and he mentioned that Rangers have got Cantwell, Cifuentes and Raskin for around £2 million. That's incredible business, isn't it? So you have to give credit to Michael Beale, because he's obviously played a big role in getting the majority of them to come to the club, and getting those 3 for £2 million, which is, we're going to go talk about Glenn Kamara. So if he goes for 5.5 million, you bring in those 3 for £2 million. It's fantastic business.
Yeah, absolutely is. Just a couple of comments on Cantwell, and an interesting one on set pieces. Dave Fulton says Cantwell has to rein in his rash tackles a bit, or he'll be suspended a few times this season. Yeah, I'm sure Michael Beale will be in his ear after that last night. The Rangers Grouch says, I hope Beale addresses our set piece problems in training. We have lost too many goals from set pieces. That is a slight concern, Euan, isn't it? You don't want to be losing goals from set pieces, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Harry Watland, he does the set pieces, doesn't he? He does the set piece coach. I think it's Harry Watland. So I imagine he'll be working on that. I think the thing with set pieces as well is that if you man mark, I'm not a fan of zonal marking at set pieces. I think it's really man mark. And ultimately, if you lose a goal from a set piece, it's generally down to one player. It's on them. I think if you zonal mark, then you can pass the buck a little bit. But when it's man marking, it's on you for losing the goal. And just going back to the Todd Cantwell point about the tackle, I mean, I think 90% of referees book him for that. I'm not sure there was too much contact, but it was rash. But what I will say on that as well is, I thought it was so refreshing to hear Peter Bosz after the game, and he was asked, were you surprised that Cantwell didn't get sent off? He went, no, I don't want to talk about that, which I think is really good. He wanted to talk about his own team, and he mentioned the fact that both Rangers fullbacks were booked, and he thought PSV could have exposed that more. But on Cantwell, he didn't want to comment. You can only imagine, certain managers in Scotland, that would be the first thing they come out with after the game and call for Todd Cantwell to get sent off. So I think that was really refreshing that he didn't want to dwell on that decision.
Yeah, and you touched on Kamara. Michael Beale was asked about the speculation. Of course, Leeds United have been heavily linked with a move for the Finnish international. £5.5 million Rangers holding out for. He was asked about it. He says, I've heard nothing about that unless something happened while I was preparing for the game. There is nothing concrete on that right now. But it certainly looks like he's edging closer to the Ibrox exit, Euan. Tell you what, £5.5 million would be a fantastic bit of business should Rangers get that.
Yeah, it's a matter of when, not if. Glenn Kamara leaves Ibrox, and I think Michael Beale might be holding his cards a little bit closer to his chest recently. I think he's had a little bit of criticism for talking too much, and I think he's also aware of that criticism as well. So I think it's a case of maybe not giving too much away in terms of transfers now. And yeah, I mean, I think Beale's focus was purely on the PSV game, wasn't it? He said he kind of alluded to that himself. And in terms of the value, 5.5 million is brilliant for Glenn Kamara. It represents a massive profit, and hopefully some of that money can get reinvested. If you look at the net spend this summer, I think you're talking about around about £11 to £12 million ranges have spent in the summer market. If you look at the money they've got from Cholak, the money they've got from Fashion Sakala, and the money they'll get, hopefully, if Glenn Kamara leaves the club, the net spend is going to be pretty small. There might be maybe £1 million. It will look like Rangers maybe spent an extra £1 million, and there's still a chance other players will go out. So, if you look at it from that point of view, and also the money they got, the money they'll get from from the beating Servette to get to the playoff round, you'd hope that Michael Beale will be able to go out and buy another 1 or 2 players. I think 2 players would be ideal I still think you need a centre back in,
Yes.
and maybe another attacking player. But I suppose Matondo's shown that he could be that guy. You know, maybe he's the guy that
could save them a bit of money.
Save a bit of money and kind of do the things that Ryan Kent can do in terms of taking on a player in that pace. And I think it's important that if Rangers go out in the market again, it needs to be a player that comes in that's a first team starter for me. There's no point buying backup. I think the squad depth's pretty good. I think it needs to go and be a player who walks straight into that starting 11. And that's what you want. You want competition for places, you know, as well as John Souttar has been this season. You want to bring in another centre back. It's going to really push him for a starting berth. There's no point bringing in cover because I think you've got Liam Balogun. I think it's going to be difficult to get Ben Davies to leave this summer. So it's what you do there. In the attacking areas as well, you want to bring in a player who's going to compete for a first team place.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that one. And if you just, there's a few comments coming in as well, just regards to, of course, Todd Cantwell was in the mix zone last night. Jack Butland was there too, spoke very well after the game. He was raving about Ibrox, says it's the best atmosphere he has ever played in. He's been good, Euan, hasn't he, since he came in? It's just good to see a commanding goalkeeper that isn't afraid to come for crosses. I thought his handling was very good last night as well. As we touched on about the outlays for players that have come in, he's another one that's come in on a free transfer. Of course, the wages will be substantial, but that looks like a very shrewd bit of business. Yeah,
it's no secret he's on big wages, but it's quite interesting with Butland that he almost doesn't seem like a new signing, does it? He feels like he's been there for a long time. He's just kind of gelled in perfectly, and like you mentioned, he's so commanding and aerially as well. There's a couple of balls last night he came out and plucked from the air, and you know, if Alan McGregor was a brilliant servant for Rangers and a brilliant goalkeeper, but that was maybe one aspect of his game that he wasn't so good at, was, you know, coming off his line and claiming crosses. And I think Butland's such a commanding figure. He'll be a leader in the dressing room. He's got such a presence as well with his height, and he's fitted in so well to Rangers that it's probably, as it looks so far, he's been the best signing this summer.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be one or two others that will be looking to win that award, if you like, as the best signing of the summer. But certainly a lot of encouragement last night from that Rangers performance, and it's all to play for next week over in the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven. Cannot wait for that one. But of course, as I mentioned, we've got the small matter of the long trip to Dingwall to face Ross County on Saturday. The build-up now begins for that one, but we'll wrap up there for today. There is plenty on the website to keep you entertained, folks. Go and check it all out at rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk all things Rangers as ever. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.